Pineal Stories is intended for information and educational purposes only. The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as medical advice. We aim to raise awareness and foster thoughtful discussion around symptomatic pineal cysts. We are not providing medical guidance or diagnosis. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical concerns or decisions. Every individual situation is unique, and only your doctor can help you determine the best course of action for your health. Everybody, thanks for coming back. We're here this week with Emily, and we're just going to turn it over and let her tell her story. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Emily Edwards. I am 38. I live in Lebanon, Ohio, in the United States. I am an art teacher, so I have a lot of fun with that, and that will definitely come into my story at some point in time. The thing that I kind of want to start with is just like that when this all started for me, it was only 6 months ago. And I will start saying that I know that I am on the extremely lucky side because this didn't take me as long as it did to get my diagnosis, to get my help, and to get my surgery. And for that, I am extremely appreciative because I know that it has been so much harder for other individuals. If it hadn't been for the Facebook groups to get the information and the other people who've gone through similar things to me, I don't think I would be where I am today. So I'm very, very fortunate to all of those people and, you know, those keyboard warriors in the pineal cysts. If it weren't for them, I don't know where I would be right now. So I want to start off with just saying I'm very happy to be here and appreciative that we're trying to get out more information, because if it wasn't people doing that before me, I don't know where I'd be right now. To start kind of like when my symptoms and everything happened, it was back on September 22nd, because of course, you know, the exact day when you've gone through this, you kind of got everything pinned down. So I'm a school teacher, and I just randomly one day woke up with a migraine, which is not atypical for me. I've been getting migraines since I was in 3rd grade, but I don't get them, like I'll get a couple a month. I don't get them all the time. And so I got a migraine on September 22nd. And I was like, oh man, this sucks, whatever. I'll just stay home today. And so I did. I stayed home sick that day. And in the middle of the day, I got this vertigo. And I've never had vertigo in my life. And I was so dizzy that I couldn't get off the couch. And the littlest motion would set me off. And I just felt like everything was spinning. I was spinning. Like I couldn't even, like they'd always ask me in the doctor's office, is it the room or is it you? I'm like, it's everything. Like, I think it's both. It's nothing. I don't know. I can't pinpoint it, but it just wouldn't go away. It was the littlest things. So if you think of the Roku screensaver where the little fish are going across the screen, it would make me completely nauseous. And so out of nowhere, I've got this horrible vertigo that I've never had before and a migraine. So it didn't go away all day. So I immediately called off for school the next day. I immediately decided I'm going to the doctor. This is not something normal. And prior to this, like other than my migraines and a gallbladder removal, like I've been pretty much the same health-wise my entire life. So I've been very, very lucky in that aspect. So I went to the doctor, and luckily my PCP is really, really nice. And she took me very seriously. And she's like, yeah, not normal. Let's get a CT scan. So within a week, I had a CT scan. I'd missed like 4 or 5 days of school. I'm trying to go in, but I feel really awful. And when I'm driving, it got to the point where I would just be like driving and a vertigo would hit and I'd have to pull over, and I couldn't always get to work. And if you know anything about the teaching profession, I have 150 students at school that kind of need an adult in the room. You can't just not come to work when you have an emergency. Somebody has to fill in and somebody has to cover your classes because there has to be an adult at all times. And so, you know, I'm calling up my secretary in the middle of the morning, like 15 minutes from school starting, crying, saying, I can't get there. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, you're going to have to find somebody to cover my classes. So I know, like, throughout this process, this was a huge imposition to my work as well, because of like the randomness of onset. So, as things progressed, my CT scan found an incidental, pineal cyst. And as they go through this process, they're, you know, kind of like, I start Googling immediately. I'm like, what's a pineal cyst? What is this? Like, and seeing, you know, Google comes right up with the symptoms you're experiencing. And I had this like, that's not normal. And then I immediately went and found some Facebook groups and immediately saw how much problems there were with people getting diagnosis and getting people to take them seriously. So at least I kind of knew right away. I was like, okay, maybe it's not this. Maybe this is incidental. But if it's not incidental, I might have a fight ahead of me. And I remember feeling like defeated in that moment. And I probably shouldn't have Googled that early. And I kind of wish I hadn't. But then I went and did the MRI follow-up a few days later. So at this point, I think we're looking at like October 7th. So we're not even 2 weeks out, but nothing's getting better and everything's getting worse. So at this point, I'm not just vertigo and migraine, which by the way, at this point, the migraine has not gone away. At any moment of any day, it has not gone away. So my migraine might range anywhere from like a 4 to an 8. Migraine medicines that have been working for me my entire life no longer work. So I'm just going through this. Now my other symptoms, I'm getting this like brain fog where I can't come up with basic words. And as a school teacher, that's really fun when you can't come up with basic words. I remember one time I was trying to say the word sunglasses and I'm miming sunglasses because I cannot come up with the word sunglasses. I'm so exhausted and tired. I'm drinking like 5 things of caffeine every single day, which clearly is not good for my health. I cannot stay awake at school. I get home from school. I immediately curl up on the couch. And this is assuming I've even made it to school because, man, that's getting difficult. I just curl up on the couch or curl up on the bed. My kids immediately come home from work and all they hear every single day is mommy's laying down, mommy's sick. You can't disturb mommy right now. And my kids are 11 and 8. So at least they're old enough that they can have empathy in this situation as opposed to if they're really young and they don't understand. And even then, it was still really hard on my kids because they're like, well, why can't we ever see mom? Why can't mom take me to Girl Scouts? Why can't mom do this with me? Why can't we have a play date? Mom's sick. So it's like every single little thing that was normal life, it's now, well, we can't, mom's laying down. And I didn't even like, as heart-wrenching as it was, I didn't want to be around my kids. Like my kids are both ADHD. I love them to pieces. I know exactly where they got their ADHD. It's me. I'm the problem. Well, I'm not a problem. I don't think of it that way. But my point is, I know where they got it. And so it's the little things like flopping onto the couch when you're laying on the couch and they're like, I just want to cuddle you. And they do normal kid flops. And I'm like, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to throw up. Oh my God, my head. So it's like every little thing along the way, my kids were being impacted. And I felt awful on my kids. And it hurt so much to see that. But I'm sleeping, like I'm laying down all day, but yet I can't fall asleep. At night, I am laying in bed for hours, unable to fall asleep. So nothing I did worked as far as that. Melatonin didn't do anything, and I would just lay there for hours. So I had the brain fog, I had the insomnia, but also the major fatigue. I'm drinking tons of caffeine. And so this whole thing was just a really big lifestyle change for me because I am super active on the go at school. I usually hit like 10,000 steps before I leave school at 2 in the afternoon. Well, I mean, before the students leave school at 2 in the afternoon. And now I'm lucky if I'm hitting 1,500 steps a day. Because when I do go to school, it's the vertigo's hitting and I'm having to sit down. And I'm an art teacher. I teach ceramics. My kids need me up and moving around. They need my hands on their projects to physically show them what to do. So now my students are definitely not getting the quality of education that I would be normally providing. Leaning into a kiln, that was not good. I had to teach kids to load a kiln, which I typically do not trust students to handle other students' work. So there were definitely some things that had to be adapted. I was missing school like crazy. So in about 6 months, there were only 2 weeks that I actually made it to school all 5 days of the week. Only 2 weeks in an entire school year. And if you don't know how teacher sick days work, we do not get vacation. We do not get like sick time in that quality. Like we don't have like 3 weeks. We accumulate a day and a quarter a month. So if I'm sick more than 1 day, I'm going into depletion of my banked sick days. And if you have a medical situation or a maternity leave, you have to use your sick days in order to have like that leave. So you have to have a balance, otherwise you go without pay. And if you go without pay too many days, you lose your insurance and you have to pay the school's portion of your insurance. So
Yeah.
I'm already freaking out. And I'm like, I'm seeing the writing on the wall. Like I'm missing school 2 days a week. I don't have this many sick days. I have 2 children that I had to use maternity leave for. I had a father who had a critical illness that I used 3 weeks for him, and then just normal life and migraines or just things that come up. So I'm already freaking out because I know that I don't have enough sick days to make it through the school year. And that's going to be a problem long term. And that's going to kind of help make my decision for me later on too. So anyway, as I go through this, I get the MRI and the doctors refer me over to a neurosurgeon at Mayfield Brain and Spine, which is a very big, reputable place here in Ohio. They are definitely a bigger name. And I remember the thing that stuck out the most when I met him. He immediately was like, nope, it's not this. Here's why. Here's what we learn. And then he made a joke, and this stuck with me. He said he had a woman several years ago who had the same situation. And right after talking to him, she immediately went to another place and had another surgeon and convinced him to take it out. And I'm like, that doesn't say something to you? Did you follow up with
It
her?
should.
Like at any point, did you follow up with her and say, so did it help? Like I've thought many times about contacting him. Maybe I'll just send him this podcast. That
Yes.
might be a little aggressive.
Oh, that's okay. We'll do it for you. Just let us.
I'll give you the name
Don't
later.
say it on here. Just let us know away from here. It'll happen.
And so I'm being told it's not it. Meanwhile, I'm talking to a neurologist at Cleveland Clinic. I'm talking to a neurologist locally. I'm talking to a neurologist at River Hills, which is another facility near here, not nearly as well known as ours, but as Mayfield. But they, when I go to the one at River Hills, they're actually going to be the ones that give me a little bit of help. They started off with one guy who was like, yeah, I don't do migraines. This is who you need to get into. It is an over month wait to get into this doctor because I'm a new patient, and the rules are if you're a new patient, you have to do a 30-day wait. And this is for a migraine specialist. And I still have not had a minute's break from this migraine between my family and teaching and sleeping. I wake up in the middle of the night from this migraine multiple times a night. So at some point in time, I get on with some scheduling secretary. And I remember I was in a staff meeting at school, and I came out of the staff meeting and I'm just crying to the secretary. And I'm like, please, I can't get any relief. I can't go another 30 days. Like nothing is working. So she managed to, talk to the doctor on my behalf, got me in a lot sooner. And I went in on Halloween. So I remember being like, oh, great, Halloween, I got this. And I ended up having like several doctor's appointments that day because, the neurosurgeon's like, yeah, go see this migraine person. That's who's going to really help you. And so I go see her, and she's going to put me on medicine after medicine. I'm trying blood pressure medicine. I'm trying migraine medicines. I'm trying preventative migraine medicines. I'm trying abortive migraine medicines. Anything she can put me on, I'm like, yes, let's try it. Let's go. Meanwhile, I'm laying down all the time. The medicines are making me gain weight. I'm not having anything to do with my family. So then, all of that is just really messing with my mentality in the process. And as I go through this, it's still not working. At one point, we got all the way up to Botox. We're doing Botox injections for migraines, and nothing's helping. And I'm still getting horrible, horrible vertigo. By this point, I've stopped driving altogether. My husband, his business, I'm so grateful for his boss, because his boss advocated for my husband to work from home so that he could drive me to school every day. So my mother comes over every morning at 6 a.m, watches my kids. My husband drives me to work, He comes back from work, logs into his computer, gets the key, finishes like him between him and my mom, they like do all the kids' duties and the school stuff, get the kids on the school bus every single morning. Because now I can't drive. And I'm calling in too many days as I'm trying to get to school, going, I can't get there. Or how many days I'm going to school and the doctor's office will call me and say, they want to try blood infusions and we need you to come today. And I'm going to my secretary, like, can I leave early? Can you find somebody to watch my last classes of the day so I can skip out? Like, I'm so grateful because I had this wonderful community of people who were willing to help me in any capacity that I needed.
That's
And
awesome.
between my secretary, my school nurse, my work wife, one of my work best friends, like the four of them carried me at school. And
Wonderful. Yeah.
I was so lucky. And like my work wife, like we teach a very interesting curriculum where we have a co-taught English, art, and social studies curriculum so that we can kind of like combine them and make it more interesting to students. And I teach all freshmen. And my poor work wife, like I got to the point where I was leaving subplans and photocopies on my desk every single day before I left because we didn't know what was going to happen to me that evening or the next morning. And if my migraine got too bad, I had to go to the emergency room for them to do IV infusions for the migraine. And even then, it would take it from like a 9 to a 7. I could never get rid of the migraine. And so I had to go to the ER several times. And I didn't know what was going to set me off. Like there was a time that one of my daughter's friends was just like screaming to them being silly. And it's literally like, I just remember grabbing my husband's shirt and just like putting my head in his shirt, like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. And I was like, you have 5 minutes. We wrap her up. We got to go. And it was just things like that. Like if I was even participating, which was rare that I'd even participate in anything in my kids' lives at this point. And it was like Halloween time, and I really wanted to go and see my kid do her like Halloween and trick-or-treating and stuff like that. And anything could set me off and send me to the hospital. And even then I wasn't truly getting relief. So, a lot of changes in my life from all of this. And again, I still say I'm on the extremely lucky side and I know it. So based on the Facebook groups, I knew pretty early on that I was probably going to want to talk to one of the big surgeons that they discuss. And my options in Ohio, my two closest options were, do I go to Wisconsin or do I go to South Carolina? And in the end, I decided to go to South Carolina since I know that he's kind of the person, Dr. Patel's the one who really kind of got this ball rolling and getting more information out there. That means he's also going to have more experience. And also, if I was going to go see him in winter, I wanted to go towards South Carolina, not Wisconsin. So that might have helped my decision. But I went ahead and I just called myself and I called his offices and I said, what do I need to do? How do I get seen by him? So they went ahead and put me in. So there was no official doctor's referral. I just advocated for myself. And then I got on the wait list to see if I could get into a sooner appointment, because at this point, I think I called in early November and my appointment wasn't going to be until January 30th because it was going to be my husband's birthday. So I remember being like, oh, well, I guess we'll be in South Carolina for your birthday. So I went ahead and did that. And I said to myself, do everything you can for everybody here that you're seeing. Do anything they want you to do, because if you can get relief, you get relief. And if you don't, you've tried everything you could try. The one thing that really helped me was I was suggested to do vestibular therapy. And so that helped with my vertigo immensely. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. This is not going to help, because the exercises are the most simple exercises you've ever seen. It's like, I'm looking straight ahead, but my head is going left and right. I'm looking straight ahead. My head's going up and down. I was in my mind, I'm like, how is this ever going to help anything? But okay, let's do it. And it did. So if anybody tells you vestibular therapy for vertigo, yeah, give it a try. So that one at least helped a lot, but I still didn't trust myself driving because I was losing vision. And so my peripheral would get narrower as I would have really bad migraines, or as the vertigo would inset. I would tell my close friends at work, I was like, I feel like I'm teaching drunk. Like, I feel like I can't walk a straight line. I feel like I'm cognitively not there. My vision's going. I feel like my memory, I have no idea what's even happening in the course of a day. And the students be like, you said you were going to get this for me. And I'm like, Yep, plum forgot. Okay, let's get it now. Like if they needed a supply or something, like I would walk away and I'd totally forget and they'd be like, it's been 5 minutes. I think you forgot. So now I'm having like memory issues and I'm at no point in time do I remember when any of these started. I just remember that day one, that vertigo and that migraine. So once we got down to see Patel, they actually had a cancellation and I got to go in on January 4th. So right at the end of winter break. So that means I'm missing less school days, which to me was like a huge, huge success because I'm running out of sick days. So when I went to Patel, I remember him starting the conversation with, tell me about your experience. Tell me about your symptoms. Do not tell me what other doctors have said you have. Because my official diagnosis at this point was vestibular migraines. And nothing that they did for vestibular migraines was ever getting rid of the migraine. So I remember going through it with him and talking with him. And right before we left, he said to me, when it gets bad enough and you're desperate enough, you tell me, I'll take it out. And that really stuck to me because he wasn't being pushy. He wasn't like, I know everything. Nobody else knows what's going on. Like, I mean, he hinted at that very much so. He definitely was like, yeah, they're guessing. They're just doing their best guesses. Yeah, uh-huh. And so I remember him saying that, but I think that last sentence was what really, really stuck with me because I was like, he's not trying to force me into surgery. He is not trying to just earn money off of me. And
Yeah.
it never once felt that way. And I remember afterwards we went and we just sat in the car and my husband and I didn't really talk about it. Like, I don't know. We just kind of like in shock, I guess. And then once we really sat down and talked maybe a few hours later, even though we were together the whole time, he was like, yeah, before we even left that meeting, I was like, sign her up. Let's go. Let's do this.
Mm.
And that really surprised me because my husband's usually very hesitant. And I just know that he was a single dad this entire time. He's just a
Mhm.
single parent who's trying to manage kids to not do anything to upset or make noises. And I've got an 11 and an 8-year-old. Like they're going to make noises. They're normal kids. So I think it really hit me how much it had impacted him as well. And it, took us a while. We just kind of sat on the decision for a couple of weeks. I wasn't really ready. I had a feeling we were going that way. And I think that ever since that initial Google, I was like, okay, this is a possibility. And I'm one of those people that like if I know all the possibilities and options ahead of time, I'm not going to freak out. But it definitely had me in a little bit of shock. So it took a couple of weeks and then I was like, okay, let's do it. And at this point I'm trying to figure out, well, I have only like 12 days of sick leave left. I am I going to have to pay my school's version of my insurance on top of what my monthly payment is for my whole family of four? And I'm going through this whole process. So we sign up for the surgery. Surgery is going to be in March, and then I get all the paperwork in line. And I start going through my school, and then my school's like, this is considered a catastrophic event. You can get sick days donated to you. And I'm like, oh, I can? Like that becomes like my saving grace. So then we move the surgery up a little bit sooner based off of the number of sick days I have left, estimating how many days I think I'll actually make it to school between then, and the number of days that are allowed to be donated me because they have a max. So we ended up moving my surgery up to February 24th. So we flew down to do the original talk with Patel, but then afterwards we decided, well, we're going to drive because what if there are complications? They say schedule for like 10-day hotel down here because after your initial surgery, maybe you need more days down here. So I was like, I don't really want to risk like having to cancel and figure out a flight in the middle of this. And I think it's going to stress my husband out too much. Let's just drive. So we drove down. And that was, I think the hardest part of that was leaving my kids. Like
Yeah.
saying goodbye to my kids at 11 and 8 and knowing that I'm not going to see them for at least 2 weeks and
Mhm.
I'm having this surgery that could, you don't know if it actually is going to help, but you don't know if something's going to happen in surgery, and that could be
Yeah.
any
Yeah, because
surgery.
it's brain surgery. It's a big deal for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sitting there thinking about it with my kids, like, and saying goodbye to them was really hard. Saying goodbye to my students was really hard. Like they had such a like their year was a roller coaster of like, is Mrs.
Oh,
Edwards here? Is Mrs. Edwards here today? Oh, nope, nope, she's gone again today. Like, so the whole thing was really difficult on that because I always say my students are my kids. And then here I'm
hmm
saying goodbye to them, and then I'm saying goodbye to my actual children. And I will always forever be grateful because my mother is such an important part of my life. And my mother is so close with my children. And they I knew without a doubt, like they were going to be taken care of. Like there were at times where it was like, does mom go to surgery or does husband go to surgery? And I feel like the two of them kept going back and forth. And I was like, oh no, I know exactly what your roles are. Grandma's with kids because she can manage their emotions better than my stressed out husband. And my mom is not going to do city driving. And my husband will. I was like, no, 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 guys, I know exactly where your roles are and where your strengths are. But at least I never once had to worry about them and their mental health. And that was a huge relief in going into the surgery. But I will say, from the moment I said, yes, I'm doing the surgery, to the day I actually had the surgery, at no point in time did I second guess my decision. And I really thought I would. I thought as I got closer to the surgery date, I thought I'd be going, what am I doing? Am I making the right choice? But I knew I had no quality of life left anymore. Like I wasn't a part of my kids' lives. I wasn't a part of my friends' lives. We are, we're kind of homebodies, but we like constantly inviting people over to our home. So it's like, hey, want to play a board game? Hey, you want to come over? You want to throw the big screen up in the yard and let the kids hang out? Like we're those type of people. And
Mhm.
I couldn't make plans with our friends anymore. We played D&D, and I remember there'd be times I'd have to look at my D&D group, which luckily, they're like, if you're in D&D, your group you're usually pretty close to, and I could look at them and be like, I can't make it anymore. We have to wrap up for the night. But I remember I was always faking it. I was always smiling and pretending and acting like I was okay, and I was miserable. And if you didn't see me in my daily life or my immediate circle, you had no idea this was going on. I never told anybody. I never reached out. I never told my extended family. I never put it on Facebook. Like, I just kept it to my immediate circle. And I was like crying myself to sleep most nights because I was thinking, how are we going to get through this? And I couldn't
You
watch.
hit the nail on the head with you didn't have a quality of life anymore.
Yeah,
That is, and I'm glad you mentioned that you didn't second guess yourself. And that's probably because you knew you were just basically breathing every day, just going through the motions. You weren't truly living. And
no,
I think that's an important part to highlight for people going through this, is that doctors need to understand that, yes, we may quote unquote survive, this in our brains,
yeah,
but we don't have a quality of life, many of us, with
yeah.
these types of severe symptoms that you're describing. And
I was a zombie most of the time.
hmm
And that was like assuming I could come out of my bedroom. I couldn't do anything with my kids. I couldn't even lay on the couch and watch TV because the TV would make me so sick. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't do computer screens. Imagine being a teacher in a digital age and you can't use a computer screen because it makes you so sick. Like reading emails, I wouldn't. I'd go to my work wife and be like, "What staff emails? What do I need to know? What are my bullet points?" Because I couldn't read them. And so she'd just give me the recaps of everything I needed to know. She'd pull up links and like fill out forms for me that I needed, and so that I could get through like just my daily work activities. If I didn't have a support system, I don't know that I'd still have a job.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the single parent thing that you mentioned is also a familiar thing to us because Michael was basically, he wasn't just single parenting. I could barely take care of myself. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't at that point, I also wasn't driving either. I was having seizure-like activity in bed most of the time. So I understand that too. And if your husband's interested in sharing his story, one of the previous episodes is Michael explaining his side and his experience, which was completely his own unique experience.
Yeah.
And if he's interested in that, we would love to hear from him because it definitely affects not just the person with it, it affects the whole family.
Yeah, it does. And I remember before surgery, my daughter, God love her, she's 8. She she was like, I'm ready for you to have the surgery because I'm ready for fun mommy to come back. And she kept
Aw.
saying like, fun mommy. I want fun mommy again. And I was
Mhm.
like, me too, baby girl, me too. Oh.
Right.
Yeah, so I
Nope.
guess I could jump into the surgery.
Yeah, you're driving to South Carolina. Here we go.
Yes. So we drove down. We got an Airbnb for the week, and I will tell you, if you have the choice and you're having the surgery, get an Airbnb that has a reclining bed because that was chef's kiss. Like that was the best decision I ever made on this surgery. Maybe it was just I got a reclining bed. So we go into the surgery, and it's a Monday. I end up being his last surgery of the day. If you have a choice, maybe don't be the last surgery of the day because when you come out, there may not be any rooms. So they didn't have any rooms for me for the night. So I had to stay down in the like post-op room before they actually move you to your room. I had to stay
Right.
there overnight.
Oh, okay.
That was rough. There was a poor woman who had surgery. I don't know what she had, but she was so sick from the anesthesia afterwards. And she's just vomiting, and I'm like, move
Oh,
me to another place. Like I just remember being miserable. So if you can avoid not having no room after your surgery, that would be nice. But can't help that always. So they were really behind on the surgery, so we're just waiting in the waiting room for a couple of hours post my surgery. Like I think my surgery was supposed to be at 2 and I had surgery 4:30-ish. So it was definitely a little bit of a wait, but Patel comes in, just says, "How you doing? Got any questions?" And it was pretty easy breezy, and we all kind of made some little jokes here and there. And we went into the surgery, and I remember being wheeled into the room, kind of looking around, going, "Oh, this doesn't look like Grey's Anatomy." And then out. And the next thing I remember was waking up and being like, I really gotta pee. Like, so, I fortunately, just remember that little like blip of time there. And immediately on waking up, I had like a crazy intense migraine. It was almost like my left eyeball, and it was like a diagonal shooting pain across my cheek and my head. That migraine, it stayed for a long time. But I was like, but it's a different migraine. It's not in the same place as my other migraine. My 155-day migraine might be gone. Like I remember having that thought within like 2 hours of coming out of the surgery going, this is in a different place. Maybe it worked. And then they did get me a room the next morning. They were able to move me into an actual room for recovery. And I remember that same day. So we're looking at like not even 24 hours. I remember like my brain's thinking more clearly. I can make a linear thought. I haven't dropped a random word. My brain fog might be gone. So it's 24 hours after surgery. And even though I've got like this intense pain shooting through my eye, I'm already going, I'm seeing improvements. And then they're giving me medicines and they're working. The medicines are taking away the headache. Oh, snap. This might have actually worked. All those other surgeons and neurologists, I guess you were wrong. Like, I'm immediately having that thought. Because in my head, going into the surgery, it was like, well, these guys are equally convinced it's not my pineal cyst. And Patel, is very convinced it's my pineal cyst. And I will never know for sure unless I have the surgery. That will be the determining factor of, yes, it was my cyst, or no, it wasn't. And immediately, we knew it was the cyst. And
isn't
so
that amazing
it was
how,
crazy.
yeah, because it's major surgery. Of course, you're going to wake up and be in pain. So it's like, how do we know that it's changed? You just do.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And so far, everybody that's had surgery with Dr. Patel, including, was it Emily who just had it a few days ago?
Yeah, there was another Emily that you guys mentioned.
Yeah, the 19-year-old
The
daughter.
19-year-old
Yeah.
Emily,
Yeah.
the other Emily, also had this sort of realization. And it's almost indescribable.
And
That
it's
is so cool to
immediate.
hear you say that as well.
Yeah, we're still keeping up with them and their recovery journey
He's
and
doing
texting each other and
great.
stuff, and she's doing great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
I'm
cool.
glad to hear because I was curious.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
was following all along in one of the groups. So it's like, ooh,
Okay.
I love that you guys have her like before her surgery and right after her surgery. I was like,
Yeah.
that's really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was awesome. Very glad that we were able to do that. And
Yeah.
she had a lot of pain, and
Oh
like
yeah.
I've told several people, when they called me back, only one person gets to go before they move into the recovery room. So I go back, and Kelly's super groggy. She's not really awake yet, but she's sort of awake a little bit. And the first thing she said to me was, "I feel like someone drilled a hole in my head."
And he
Well, maybe I
had,
got some bad news for you.
yeah, he was like, they did.
There's more than a hole.
All right, so here we are, South
Yes.
So
Carolina,
your
recovery
surgery's
time.
done
Yeah.
and you're noticing a difference. That's within 24 hours.
Yes. But I end up staying at the hospital for 4 days because we're having a really hard time keeping that shooting pain across my eye
Mhm.
down. By the fourth day, I remember like oh, it had to have been like day two. I'm like, when do I get a shower? When can I shower? I just want to get this gunk out of my hair. When can I shower? So I remember that being a really big deal for me. But I stayed for 4 days and then my husband drove me to God love him. I'm gonna be mean for a second. The poor man in city driving, maybe not his strong suit. And definitely, put a pillow behind your head when anybody's going to be accelerating anywhere in a city space in a short amount of time. Because there were a couple times I totally like kind of hit my back of my head and I was like, I'm gonna cry. And he felt awful.
Oh,
Poor guy. But that was
uh-huh.
the worst thing that happened. So, we'll take that as a bonus. But then we just went to the Airbnb and stayed there. And I remember in the Facebook group, because this was kind of an interesting one, everybody's like, you have to do 3 weeks, no screens, no reading, no eye straining. They never actually told me that at the hospital. Like, nobody ever said that to me. And I was like, well, it's probably a solid practice. So I'll probably just go with it anyway, even though they never said anything to me.
Hmm.
Even though every now and then I cheated, I'd be like, hey, like randomly call a friend. And my friend, well, I have one friend, Stephanie, she was like, how'd you call me? Who dialed the phone, Emily? You're not supposed to be on your phone. But I'd be like stir crazy and I'd be like, I need people to talk to. I can only listen to one audiobook a day. I'm getting capped out, guys. Like, this is a lot of audiobooks and no TV. And so I remember I'd like cheat and I'd call a friend and be like, hey, how's it going? And one of my good friends, she lives up in Chicago. And when I called her to check in, she immediately puts me on speakerphone with her whole family. They're all sitting around playing games. And they were all like, you sound like you. And I remember that being a standout minute because they
Absolutely.
were saying like your personality's back. And
Oh my gosh. That
and
just kind of gave me chills.
yeah,
That just gave me chills.
my
Wow.
work wife did the same thing. When I called her, she immediately was like, you sound like Emily. Oh, my Emily's back. And I'm like, I will be back. I promise. We can be a team again.
Tell her about what you experienced with that,
No, I mean, well, I mean,
with my personality and how
yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into it because we've,
I just mean like the
but I will say
pain.
that the one key thing there was Paxton. We can tell that story one more time. That he was in the recovery room. Our son was 13, and so he was from 10 to 13. Kelly doesn't really remember him from 10 to 13. So he's
Which
13
is
years
fine.
old, and in the room after recovery, he's able to see her and talk to her for just
Briefly.
this the very briefest time before saying, my mom's back. It was
Yeah.
just such a
Yep, that gave me
telling
chills.
statement. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that was really telling for me too. Like, you're in the thick of it and you don't realize, like, on some aspect or some level, you know how bad it is, but you kind
Mhm.
of also don't because you're just coping. It's like you don't have much time to really reflect on my personality has changed. Like,
Yeah.
I knew that my energy level and my participation in my family had changed, but to realize that my personality had changed was a big one.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that, during that recovery period, I was bored out of my ever loving mind. I will say that. So if I said the mean about my husband, I'll tell you the nice about my husband. I love to quilt. And my husband, I was like, I'm stir crazy. I can't do this anymore. Get me out of this apartment. And he would like work really odd hours. I hope they don't listen to this. He would work really like odd hours. So like if we had a doctor's appointment or something, we'd maybe tack on lunch in a quilt store. So,
Sure.
so he might like clock in at 6 and work for a couple hours, take me out, and then come back and like work like until like 8 p.m. or something to make up the time. And his boss, as I said before, was really awesome. And she made it so that his schedule was flexible while we were down there. So he didn't have to take all of his vacation, because we're sitting there going, you're going to have to take time off. And he had to take time off, obviously, to go down with me and fly down with me the first time. But we're sitting there going, you're not going to have any vacation. And we've already like, how much of our family time has already been lost? And so we were trying not to use up his entire vacation. So he managed, I think he only took 3 days off during that entire 2 weeks we were down there. And it was like
Awesome.
my surgery day, the day after my surgery, and then like kind of like weird pockets, like a half day or like with the doctor's appointments and things. So whenever he could, and then sometimes like in the evening maybe he'd like drive me to quilt stores, but I can't see after the surgery. I have like horrible double vision.
Mhm.
Nothing's syncing up, and they told us like that is the number one thing that takes the longest to clear up. Dr. Patel was very, very open about like, here's what we usually see, here's symptoms, here's this. And so I at least knew going in that that was one. And of course, being an art teacher, you're like, cool, losing my vision. This sounds great as an art teacher.
Yeah.
But my husband would take me to these quilt shops and I'd be like, I can't tell. I don't know what's in this fabric. I don't know. And he was like laying out fabric. He's like, okay, we're going to buy these. Like weeks later, I was like, what did we buy? So now I've got a bunch of quilt projects based off the fabric he picked out while taking me quilt shopping because I
There
was
you go.
bored
Quilts
out of
designed
my
by a husband. What could possibly go wrong?
there are some interesting ones. There might be a D&D themed one, but then there's also like cat, like black cat quilt. He's like, I found all this fabric with black cats on it. It's so cute. So I'm like,
That's awesome.
okay. No project in mind, just randomly buying up quantities of fabric. I don't even know how much money he spent on fabric. When we were driving home, we would like Google quilt stores to like just get out of the car and stretch our legs. So my other piece of advice is if you're stir crazy like me and you're going to want to get out, take a walker, because I really wished I had had a walker when I was like, let's go shopping. I overdid it because that's my personality. I overdo things. I go a little too hard, a little too fast. So if you're like that, just take a walker.
Yeah.
Um
My
we
mom
then
quilted my entire life. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Quilt.
And
I'll talk
so
about quilts all day. You want to start a new podcast? Let's go.
she, she might take you up on that. She has this huge quilting machine, her own little shop,
Oh,
and
she's a long arm.
yeah, she has one of the,
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm
yeah.
trying to convince my whole family we need a long arm, especially
Yeah.
since my husband bought like 10 quilts worth of fabric.
Well, there you go. And so I've been around it my whole life, and still, I'm not. I mean, I guess I could sort of see patterns and stuff, but I am confident that I could not properly pick out material to make a quilt. I would rely entirely on my mom, and I've done some quilting before, done some patchwork things and all, but it was all under guidance. Because if it were me, it would be a row of black, a row of white, a row of yellow, a row of purple, then maybe chartreuse. I don't know. That'd be it. That's about as creative as it would get. So
Oh, well, we had a lot of fun with it. It kind of became a challenge after the fact. Like, how much fabric did we get? What can I make? Like, sitting literally right behind me is that cat quilt I was talking about. Like,
oh, there we go.
yeah. So I literally, like, I just finished it recently. So it's sitting up, like, as I decide how I'm going to do the back, because I don't have enough fabric for the back of it. So I'm going to
Hmm,
do like a random patchworky thing on the back to just to use more of the fabric. Because, if I spent that much money on cat fabric, I'm going to use it all up.
exactly.
But anyway, so when we get home, I remember after we get home, so driving all the way back to Ohio, and we kind of split it up in 2 days. As we're driving home from Ohio, that's when my husband's mom found out I had surgery. We didn't even tell her.
Oh no.
She like did not believe us. She was like, "Wait, what? Are you joking? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're going to Tennessee? You're driving through Tennessee and you just had brain surgery?" Like, yeah, we did. So when I say we didn't tell people, we really, like, we really didn't tell people. I don't know. I just, if you weren't in my immediate, like, if you didn't see me all the time, you didn't know. And so afterwards, I remember we kind of like a couple weeks later after we'd been home and we knew like my migraine's gone, my brain fog's gone, my vertigo's gone. Like my sleep, I haven't slept this well in years. I'm like, well, maybe that thing was in there causing problems for way longer than we knew because I don't need melatonin to fall asleep anymore. Like I fall asleep within like 15 to 20 minutes instead of like 2 hours. But even before all of my other symptoms, it would take me over an hour to fall asleep commonly. So I'm like, maybe that thing was in there causing some problems for a while and I didn't know it. And by itself, it didn't really, just sleep. I was like, I'm not going to the doctor for sleep. Like, it's just my mind, it's my ADHD. And so I chopped it up to a lot of that. My family, like my kids, were just so happy, obviously, that I was back. We didn't tell them because we didn't want to give them like a hard date and then be wrong if they needed me to stay longer.
Sure.
So we didn't give them a hard date. And so my kids just got off the bus and there I was just sitting on the couch, like, hey guys. And I remember them just being like, my son was like, what in the world? Because like he's being this like responsible little kid. He gets off the bus and I'm like chomping at the bit to see him. And he's like pulling in the recycling can and then he did the garbage can and we're like, oh, you're so sweet. Can you come inside now? So I remember my kids just being really, really happy. Their teachers were so, so supportive. I made sure, they knew ahead of time because I'm like, I don't know what you're going to get emotionally out of my kids with all this going down before the surgery and then while we were gone during the surgery. And it just has been remarkable how quickly I could just flip the switch again. It was like a light switch had been flipped and I had all of these horrible symptoms out of nowhere and then I come back from the surgery and it's like the light had been flipped back off and now I'm myself again. And so it probably took about 30 days for my vision to clear up. I have only had a couple of migraines or headaches since we got home. So no 155-day migraine that could be from a 4 to an 8 at all day every day. Like that was my worst one, was just never being able to get rid of a headache. I look back now and I'm like, how did I survive? I don't, like, it just, like, my mom and I talk about that a lot. Like, how did we get through this? And it's kind of mind-boggling to realize how quickly everything changed and how quickly after surgery it all went right back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you that I've pretty much been asking everyone. Would you do the surgery again?
Oh, hands down, obviously, yeah.
Yep. That's
Without
really
a doubt. And I'm so glad I took the risk because, I mean, like I said, I knew going in, these doctors tell me it's not this. And Patel is like, they're guessing and it is this. And equally, they felt so confident in their, like, in what they're telling me. And I just got to the point where it was like, I've done everything they've asked me to do. And I remember the migraine specialist here in Ohio that I was seeing was always surprised when I'd call her and be like, nope, my migraine's still there. Nope, still have it. And she'd be like, really? Okay, let's try this. Like, and I remember her just being like surprised whenever I would call and be like, that didn't work either. And she'd, twiddle with the dosage or add another medicine or swap one out. And I was constantly changing out migraine medicines and anything that might possibly help it. And so I would 1000%, like, I feel like I did my due diligence to make sure that this was the right route. I didn't just be like, okay, brain surgery, let's go. Like, obviously, I don't think anybody who has good mental health would be like, yeah, brain surgery, but you get to a point where you're so desperate and you're going, yeah, yes, I'm doing brain surgery.
We make that point often.
The point made that, yeah, it's brain surgery. I mean, I had a minor back surgery and microdiscectomy back in 2012, and even looking for a surgeon for that seemed like I needed the best in the world, just something in my back. So yeah, I mean, thinking about someone working in your brain, it's a big deal, a big surgery. And I don't know anybody that would actually choose to do it.
No.
If you would have asked me 10 years ago, hey, would you be cool with having brain surgery? That would have terrified me,
Yeah.
But
8
when your
months ago, I would have
symptoms
been
are
like, you're
that bad,
insane.
Hmm.
you're willing to do it. And that's, I think, the seriousness that needs to come across with that too is these aren't minor inconvenient symptoms. They're
No.
just not. You don't go through brain surgery. You don't travel out of state. You don't spend thousands of dollars
Oh my God.
um, for
Yeah.
something that is quote unquote a minor inconvenience. And I don't even blame the medical community because the problem is they are doing what they were taught,
Yes.
and they don't, it's not their fault. It's just a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. And even the ones that, even like the first person that I saw, he had no idea what it was. He had been in practice for 30 years or so and didn't know what it was, but he at least he didn't dismiss my concerns. Some of them did, but I even don't blame the ones that dismissed them because I've been told by numerous doctors that the brain is still the number one most misunderstood organ in the body. There's so much more that we don't know than we do know. And so I don't blame these doctors. They're doing what they were taught. And
Yeah.
hopefully, with the help of this podcast, we're going to help more not just neurosurgeons and people that deal with the brain, but even those first line doctors that, because when you first have something wrong, who do you go to? You probably go to your PCP first,
Yep.
right?
That's what I did.
We need them to see and understand that these can and do cause symptoms, get us to the right specialists, and then have those specialists understand, okay, these are and can be significantly symptomatic, life altering um, conditions that you just, sure, you can breathe, right? You're going to survive. Most people are going to
Yeah.
live with it. You're not going to like die most of the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
But
Patel said something
it's
like,
a
you don't ever
quality,
have to worry about it rupturing or anything like that. Like,
right? But then you've got these horrific symptoms in which you're not able to take care of your family,
mhm.
your job, that sort of thing. They are life altering, and it is miserable for not just the person with the symptomatic cyst, but for the entire family. And some of the symptoms are incredibly distressing, not just the physical ones, the ones that cause pain like migraines, but the mental ones, the
Yeah, the emotion
personality
aspect too.
changes.
Yeah.
The We have had, like myself, people that have had auditory and visual hallucinations, paranoia, stuff like that. I had all of that, and
Yeah.
it's horrific. And like I said, I don't blame the medical community because they don't know.
Yeah, I think that on day one of medical school, they say that the human body needs air, the human body needs water, the human body needs food, and a cystic enlargement of the pineal gland causes no symptoms. That's it for day one. But it really seems like that is so ingrained,
Yeah,
and I'm sure it's being taught. Now, the good news
it
is
is.
that as you know, the chief of the department and a learning hospital, Dr.
Mhm.
Patel teaches students. So the next generation will come along,
Yeah.
once they've paid their dues, they will come along, and this will become less and less of a difficult thing to get
Yeah.
treated. But for now, we really need some others on board.
Right. And my hope is that one day, there's going to be a whole weekend medical conference that is dedicated to training doctors to understand, neurosurgeons, neurologists to understand what symptoms could be indicative of a symptomatic pineal cyst, to where it's going to be something where they see a patient and go, you know what? You might have a pineal cyst. Let's get you an MRI. And if they do, great. They understand that these can and do cause symptoms. They can and do cause symptoms. often debilitating ones. And that's really the goal here, is because there are people that have suffered for years. I think we even talked to somebody who had been a decade or
Over.
something
Yeah.
crazy like that. And most people, first of all, it's awesome. I think you said 6 months. Is that how long?
Yeah, it was literally 6 months from
That's
onset to surgery. And
That's
like,
great.
it was,
that's what we're going for. We want it to even yes, we
Yes.
want people to get help within, a quick amount of time. And so far, yours is the one that we've heard that has been resolved the fastest.
yeah,
But I mean, still six
I
months of
believe that.
time, like you said, when you have a job, when you're a teacher, when you're a mom, that's still a long time to suffer. And um, there just needs to be more education about it. And thank God Dr. Patel and his team are doing that. They're
Mhm.
studying this. And I did read an article in which he was hopeful that one day they might be able to come up with a
Pharmacological.
pharmaceutical
Mhm.
way to deal with these, because brain surgery is a big deal. I mean, how
Yeah.
wonderful would it be if there was some type of pill or a shot or something that could reverse the
A
effects?
non-invasive treatment.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That's the goal, and that would be awesome.
Yes.
But
And it would
and
save all of us a lot of money.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, yeah, no brain surgery is the ultimate goal
Yeah.
of this thing, where we're kind of cheering on brain surgery for certain people. Nobody is encouraging, like we keep saying,
yeah, we're not
nobody
so
Yeah.
wants unnecessary surgery. What we
Right.
want is to redefine the word unnecessary.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important distinction. And you don't go into this willy-nilly, like just like doo, I'm gonna have brain surgery. Like it's not like
right.
that. It's a humongous decision, and
Yes.
it impacts every single part of your life and everyone who's in your life and all of
Mhm.
your family and immediate people, your immediate circle. And I think that it's so important for people to realize, like you said, that this is not something we're just going to choose out of nowhere to do. You're at
Mhm.
the end of your rope. You are desperate for help and you need that help. And it is frustrating to be told, like, nope, those never have symptoms. And you said, you joked like, oh, on day one. I recently saw this Instagram post where somebody in the medical profession was going through different things in the brain and different types of tumors and locations, and they did a clip on the pineal cyst, and it was like a minute, and it was like, this is what it is, this is where this is what the pineal cyst does, these are never symptomatic, we learned that very early in medical school. Like it was like
There we go.
done. And I
Yeah.
was like, nah, no, no, please no.
It's patently false what
Yeah,
they are learning right now. What
yeah,
they're Anybody that is taught that these don't cause symptoms, it's just false, and it's no fault of their own. I mean, if that's all they know and that's all they've been taught, then I understand reiterating that. But
yeah,
um, I'm hopeful. I'm so hopeful that, well, I mean, we've already seen it. More and more and more people are starting to find Dr. Patel, and the more of us that come together as patients and share our stories, the
mhm.
more the medical community is going to be able to listen and go, oh, well, I have a patient that's like that, and we don't know what's causing her symptoms. Oh,
And when
but
I
we
got
did
back to
see a
my
cyst on her
PCP,
MRI. Maybe that is what's causing it, kind
Mhm.
of thing. And
I'm very lucky, like I said, that mine was resolved so quickly. And I really think that has a huge part of that was the Facebook communities and these pineal cyst and tumor groups that are out there saying like, here's my story, here's my process, here's what I've experienced. And when I could, it was really hard because I couldn't really read the screen, but I'm trying to like take in as many of these stories and things, and it
Mhm.
it helps to know you're not alone.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was, I think, good for my mental health to know, like, okay, ahead of time, like, if it is this, I'm gonna have to fight and advocate for myself. And
Yes.
luckily, like my PCP, I love her. She's awesome. She immediately was like, all right, let's do this. And as soon as I came back from the surgery and had it, she's like, I'm so glad you advocated for yourself. Like she did not doubt me. Anytime I ever talked to her, she never doubted me. And so I'm very lucky that I had her as a support system that I knew I could come back to at any point in time. But obviously that's not her realm. She's not a neurologist. So I was lucky that I had somebody, and then I have the support system between my family, my friends, and the people at work who were like holding me up, and also this online community of people who have gone through this. So I'm always going to be grateful that they were there when I needed them, because I don't think I would have the answers. Like I would probably still be in the dark, thinking it wasn't that, and thinking it was vestibular migraines when it's not.
Right. And, it still saddens me because I think even just within the past 24 hours, this morning, I saw a new post on that group with somebody with a 1.4 centimeter cyst who came
Yep.
back from the doctor and was told, oh, it's stable. You're fine. It's not what's causing your symptoms.
Yep.
And yet here they are with vertigo and seizure-like activity and memory loss and all kinds of things. And they're being told, I feel like every other day I'm seeing a post about someone reaching out for
Yeah.
help and being told, well, yeah, you have this, but it's not what's causing your symptoms. And that's just simply not true.
But we're working every angle we possibly can,
Mhm.
and all of these interviews are a big part of that, because obviously we couldn't do without them, and so we really, really appreciate you.
Yes,
Well, I
so much.
appreciate you guys doing this and putting it together. It's got to be a lot of work, and I know that the more we get these stories out there, like the more you don't feel alone when you're going through this as another
Mhm.
person. And I want to, in any way, if like it can help somebody feel not alone, I want to do that. And so I appreciate that you guys are getting this information out there, because without people pushing to do it, change isn't going to happen.
Yep.
I guarantee you that you have helped someone feel not alone. So thank you.
Even if it's just one
Guarantee,
person, it's worth it.
I
Absolutely.
guarantee you have. Yes.
Well, we really, really appreciate you. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us again. Hope you will next week as well. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Pineal Stories, where patient voices matter and real stories have the power to drive change. If you or someone you love is living with a symptomatic pineal cyst, know that you are not alone. Our community is growing, and your experience matters. Share your story, connect with others, and help us push the medical conversation forward. Visit pinealstories.com to explore more stories, submit your own, and stay connected. And if you found this episode meaningful, please consider leaving a review and sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, stay strong, stay informed, and keep speaking up. This is Michael Abels with my wife Kelly, and you've been listening to Pineal Stories. Thanks, y'all.